How do we determine what is? Okay, that's the conversation that philosophy deals with. Now, it's branched off into various disciplines and sciences, and there are various languages and communities and cultures that call it different words, but it's still the same thing. It's a process. It's a process. If you're going to attack, as he says, the underpinnings of medicine, science, whatever, something that we can track, something that we have tracked, something that we've built a better understanding through time with human reasoning, which comes from somewhere, that's a different conversation, to use the reason that is inherent and also a very strong part of what defines us, our reason. And our want to know has been a successive and progressive endeavor. Okay? So if someone's going to attack the underpinnings of what we know and how we know it by saying, well, this completely absurd and ludicrous alternative that doesn't help anybody, Trent's argument then is, see, Sam Harris's slippery slope evil because he wants to make people with gangrene consider that dying a slow and painful death might not be the best way to spend their life. Just consider that. That's evil. If they want to die of gangrene, this is Trent now, if they want to die of gangrene, they should be allowed to. It's immoral to suggest that somebody who thinks gangrene is good for them is wrong. It's immoral to say that you saying that gangrene is good. You're going to die. You're rotting, okay, from the inside out. And you're saying, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to die of gangrene. And we'd say, well, that's not healthy. And they'd say, who are you to say what health is? That's ludicrous. There's no way to paint that in any other light than ludicrous. That's what Trent is saying. He's saying ludicrous is the reasonable position. There's no other way to look at this. It is ludicrous. Harris is right. Now watch this magic trick. Hello. I hope we find you well. Looking face, the super handsome guy that everyone wants to... This is a little bit of a leftover, a loose end. And many will continue to occupy the landscape, moral, scientific, traditionally Catholic, stinted, and confused. In any which way we find it, the landscape, it's going to stay the way it is. But this bugs me a lot. It bugs me a lot. Not because it reached out and poked my eyes or stole my girl. For no reasons that you mortals tend to stay distracted. It bugs me because it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it's posing as intellectual or moral, any number of metaphysical or well-grounded in the cosmos or apparent in human nature. Any way these pseudo-intellectuals want to try to frame their case, their collection of claims, it's not much more than just a collection of loose ends. And they don't want them tied up because that's their gimmick. That's their shtick. That's their lie. That's their preconceptions and assumptions that they're addicted to, the fetishes that define them. We could break that down. We could draw pictures. We could write notes. We could share in a conversation and come to a better understanding. Something to reconcile the differences, something to pull the loose ends tight, or better yet, start using something other than the dental floss that we use to string our ideas together. You're never going to get use once and destroy, okay? And then we're going to move on to dental health, which evades me. So that's a bad metaphor. This, though, is down to your speed. It's simple, and it's fucking stupid, and it's pretending to be something smart. So you'll have plenty of distracted cultists sitting in the comment section saying, one guy said, I was an atheist. No, what did he say? Sam Harris converted me to atheism, and Trent Horn, or whatever his name is, converted me to Catholicism. Whoa. That's not progress, man. That's not progress. that is validation of stupidity, and it's being complicit in a fetish rather than being present to. If you believe God created you and you believe that this earth, this existence, the purpose, the function, the separation between order and disorder, original sin, if you're an Augustine or you're of the school of Thomas Aquinas, or you're a non-denominational, evangelical, Pentecostal, any number of deluded organizations that stand outside of reality, whichever one you're going to be part of, when you participate in applauding the type of nonsense we're about to see, you're only being complicit. That's it. You're not coming to any better understanding. You're not mutually regarding truth in comfort with those who have worked to attain a better knowledge. None of it. And one of the main reasons that I decided to sit down and go over this is because our friend Trent here references Ben Burgess, Dr. Ben Burgess, who seems like a decent enough guy, okay? But he's not a philosophy professor, and he's not a political writer. He's just like Trent Horn, out here posing for his cult. And in fact, we'll see an example very quickly into the video where this case can be made. Burgess takes something from Harris's book, The Moral Landscape, and he says, if we replace the word science or medicine with or well-being or something, some general concept that he fails to understand, Burgess and Trent, if we take this word and we change it for gender dysphoria, or even better yet, homosexuality, and we consider that the DSM qualified particularly homosexuality as a mental defect or disease until the 1970s, then boom, science, you fail, you're bad faith science, right? This is the argument. And Burgess is not an original thinker. He gets this from Brooks, and this is the fetish of tradition that Burgess is complicit to. And furthermore, Burgess goes on to make the point that the only gains we've seen in accepting homosexuality and transgenderism hasn't been accepted because it shouldn't be an ism. It's not an ism. It should be about the individual who wants to transition to the gender that they see themselves as. I don't know why this is so hard for you lefty cultist wannabes. It's not leftism, and it's not much different than the traditional Catholic insanity that Trent is representing. I keyed this up. I got my notepad out. I started to take notes because I thought maybe this will present a challenge for me. Maybe this will challenge my assumptions and dissuade me of some of the perpetual frustration that I'm steeped in. Maybe it will humble me to the opportunity to see more of what is actually there instead of the frustration that informs my anticipation and expectation of this ridiculousness. But it didn't. It just validated it. Okay? And for anyone who's not just addicted to being like, oh, look at that funny YouTuber making fun of that game, or there's some new Takis flavors, or did you hear about what Donald Trump said, or did you hear about what my cult said? What's his fucking face, the super handsome guy that everyone wants to fuck and has no knowledge of politics, Hassan Piker? Okay, did you hear he had somebody on his show? Blah, blah, blah. The things that people talk about online are just ridiculous. They're not worth your time. They're certainly not worth my time. The patterns repeat, and they're just ridiculous. They're silly, they're stupid, and these people are so emotionally invested in validating their traditions, which are half-formed at best. Okay, Catholicism at least has worked through scholasticism to establish things like primary cause and what the nature of human nature is. Philosophers will try to separate ideas, but it ultimately always comes down to a problem of linguistics. What do you mean when you say that word? When you say moral, what does that mean? When you say first cause, or you say atheist, you say, oh, these atheists over here, they're all atheists. That's a crass assumption, misapprehension that there's a uniform ideology that people are operating off of. And then when you're using people online, like in Hassan's chat or whatever, which is what they do, they use whatever example they can reach to say, aha, see, I knew they thought this. This game is too complicated for me to break down right from the get-go. But look, we've got Trent, who's using Sam Harris to back up Trent's traditional Catholic delusion. And to do that, to soften the blow, to say, look, I'm actually a reasonable thinking person. I'm on the side of reason, he says, in so many words, which is a kind straw man for him, okay? That's a good faith assumption about where he's coming from. Unlike Trent, who uses straw man after straw man after straw man after straw man. We'll see. He says, look, to soften the blow, look, Burgess, whom is a sexual deviant, because he agrees with all this liberation stuff, even he agrees with me. Well, there's more to it than just that, Trent. Burgess is not speaking for anybody. He's trying to, which is the problem. He's trying to speak for a movement, as we see in this bad analogy that Burgess uses, where he says, if we replace this word with homosexuality, then, science is evil, Like, science is not a thing. It's not a reference. It's not a rock. It's not that stupid black rock Muslims kiss like it was. Folklore and fiction and narrative is fine to an extent. But when we can prove that that black rock did not come from God and it didn't absorb any sins to become, it was once white. Look it up. All of that is horseshit garbage. The black covering on that little square that they in Mecca that they walk around. They say that was Abraham's hut. Bullshit! There was no such person as Abraham, and it was certainly, if there was, it was certainly not his abode, okay? We know this. We know this for a fact. But because it serves a purpose in fortifying people's faith, which we could talk about faith, but again, we're going to hit that linguistic wall, which is where philosophy gets to. Always and inevitably. Wittgenstein proved this. Burgess should know this. Trent, if he actually studied under Jesuits or anything, he would know this too. Wittgenstein broke the frame. It doesn't work. You have to start from scratch every time and try to get at what actually is there. And that's, if that's what our interest is, science is our best bet. Science, again, is not the black rock or, the folklores about Medina or any of that stuff. It is what we can demonstrate, what we can agree makes sense. We say that makes sense. We say, how does that make sense? Because I've got this, that, and the other. I've tried. We've done this. We've gathered data. We've reproduced it. We've got peer review. We've got all these things just to try to make sure that we're not missing something, because this is going to represent some authoritative claim about the nature of reality. We want to make sure that we're not perpetuating any more ills. We're trying to correct ills, or we're just trying to say what this is. Burgess goes on in the end to say, well, the changes that have come, the liberation that the LGBTQ plus movement has experienced have come from the movement. Burgess is just appealing to what he has fetishized as a leftist undercurrent of populist frustration. No. People are stupid. They're ridiculous. They're content to talk about, oh, look at that YouTuber said this thing. That's it. People are not interested in understanding more or rectifying a better and working universal, as close as we can get to it, definition to explain something that's more complex than just our local, anecdotal, platitude-ridden sense of tradition and familiarity. Okay, all the big words aside, let's go on over to this interesting fellow, and let's take it back to a point where he's not trying to sell his channel to us, and let's break it down.